You are listening to Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Obviously, I'm Pam. And,
What do you mean, obviously?
well,
You are.
I mean, I don't know. I don't sound like a Chuck, do I?
Well, but in this day and age, there's so much confusion about certain things that,
True. Okay, my bad. I'm
Can
Pam.
we be sure?
I'm Pam.
I'm Chuck.
There
All
we go.
right, we got that solved. All right, there it
Oh my
is.
God. Okay. So we were just discussing off the air how many screeners we have and how many movies came out over the last
Ex-
week or so.
Explain to the folks what a screener is.
A screener is a link that we receive from a publicist or studio of the movie before it comes out in theaters or streaming. So we get those screening links or screeners ahead of time so that we can share our thoughts and opinions with all of you.
Yeah, and it's very much more convenient. I mean, we can watch them at home at our leisure. This was, I think, I picked up obviously during COVID, and some of the studios were really good about continuing that
Right.
because it is much easier on us. However, it is not the experience that you would get in a theater, which does have an effect on some things. Kind of the movie I'm about to talk about, it does have an effect on that. Slingshot came out this week with Casey Affleck and Lawrence Fishburne, and it is a movie that you don't need to see it on a big screen, but if you do, it certainly adds something because it takes place in outer space. It takes place a few years from now. It's never really specific. And we're on a spaceship called Odyssey 1, and we are heading to Saturn. Apparently, there is a moon there called Titan that is very similar to Earth in atmosphere. Then we need to get to Titan to get some methane to help with our global warming problem. Now, I'm no scientist at all, but I was questioning this. They needed more explanation because I'm like, so what? You're going to bring the methane back? Could you possibly bring enough methane back to actually have an impact on things? It takes you 2 years to get there, and it's going to take another two to come back with the methane. I mean, that tells you just how important this detail is in the movie.
I know they're going to run a long hose through.
Oh,
There you go. I'm no
well,
scientist either.
stupid me. Stupid me. Well, where they're going and why they're going really isn't important. Okay, because what is important is that these guys are in cryogenic sleep. They wake up every 90 days to make sure the ship is running just fine, and then they go back to sleep for another 90 days until they get there. Well, the side effects of the drugs that put them under are massive, or are potentially massive, and suddenly paranoia sets in. Suddenly, Casey Affleck is seeing the girlfriend that he left behind, played by Emily Beecham, walking the halls of the spaceship. Suddenly, we're thinking that the spaceship is just going to explode and everything is going to go to pot. So it becomes this question of what's real and what's not. And you end up in Casey's shoes because you don't know what's real and what's not, just like him. And it becomes this whole rather intriguing mystery as we go through. I liked it because some of these movies cheat when they finally tell you what's going on, and it's this out of left field thing that makes no real sense or wasn't mentioned before. This one doesn't do that. It does do a good job of setting this up, and it logically moves through so that when we get the ending, it's like, oh, I get it. That makes sense. So it's one that's going to keep you guessing. And it's one that you're probably going to talk about quite a bit afterwards too. So it was a movie that genuinely surprised me at times.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. I am, unfortunately, as we're talking about all the screeners that we get, my link expired and I didn't get a new one on this movie. So I am going to go to the theater to go see this one. You have intrigued me to go see it. I like smart movies. I like when I have to think. I like when I am immersed into a film. And it sounds like that's exactly what this is.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, give it a shot. I don't know why, but some people buy into this, some people don't. It's running about 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I don't think that's right, but what do I know?
A lot, a lot. I like it when we can put our foot on that tomato meter.
Yes, exactly right. Me too. And there's not a lot of reviews for it. So every little review is going to help that one.
Very good.
What do
And
you want to talk about?
I want to take us back to 1992. The name of the movie is 1992. And for those of us old enough to remember, April 29th, 1992, that's the day that the not guilty verdict was read in the brutal police beating of Rodney King. If you don't remember it, you're going to know a little bit more about that date after seeing this movie. Um, I like the fact that the co-writer and director Ariel Roman uses this real life situation as a backdrop to create that emotional tension and the explosion that is about to happen, not just in reality with the Rodney King verdict, but also in this heist movie that is a father-son movie, which is kind of a crazy thing. We've got a dichotomy. We've got two sets of fathers and sons. We have Tyrese Gibson, who plays Mercer, and he is a recently released convict who now has to take care of his teenage son because the mother and the grandmother that was taking care of Antoine, is his name, are no longer with us. We're not quite sure what happened, but it sounds like it was a violent or tragic death. So Mercer sees what's happening in the world. They live in a really bad neighborhood in LA. And this isn't the first time that Mercer's been exposed to violence of this sort, especially when it comes to racism. He warns his son. He's really tough on his son, but he loves his son and he cares for him and he wants to be there for him now, even though he wasn't before. And he tells this kid, come straight home from school. We don't know what's going to happen, and he fears that there are riots going to happen. Well, just so happens that Mercer works at a catalytic converter manufacturing plant. And I learned something. Maybe this is true, maybe it's not. They use platinum, and that's why you can never park your car at a trailhead. It's because your catalytic converter is stolen for the platinum. I did not
Yep.
know that.
Yep.
So anyway, this manufacturing company has loads of platinum on hand, $10 million worth of it, in fact. And that's when we are introduced to a father-son duo played by Scott Eastwood and Ray Liotta. They play Riggin and Lowell. And they put together this elaborate plan to steal all this and do a quick get rich kind of robbery. Um, as we watch the verdict being read, the rioting begins, and Mercer and Antoine find themselves back at the manufacturing plant because they think that's going to be the safe place to be. Little did they know it was probably a lot more dangerous to go there than it would have been to stay holed up in their apartment. It's kind of interesting. This movie surprised me because I really didn't know what to expect. And when I saw what it was going to be about, I thought, oh, this is super predictable. And it is, you know what's going to happen. But I really liked the relationships and I loved the parallel lines of the relationship that are drawn between Ray Liotta's character and Scott Eastwood's character. And then we have the other set of father and son and how different they are and how race impacts them both. And especially in 1992, some of the issues that are brought to our attention are pretty telling. Yes, race is a through line in this, but again, it's really about that father and son relationship and what Mercer is willing to do for his son and what his son is willing to do for him. It is pretty violent, but that's part of the film. And if you can handle the violence, I think this is a really good story told well.
It surprised me too.
Oh, you did watch it? Oh, good. Okay.
Watch it. Yeah, yeah, and I liked it as well. Eastwood has never really impressed me, but you see him getting better.
I agree.
He's good in this film. He's very conflicted with his father, and you see that, but it's not over the top. It's very subtle what he's doing there.
Right.
So suddenly I'm starting to watch him in a different light. I'm going to start paying more attention to him, which is good. And Leota, of course,
Ah,
he dominates every scene he's in. Every time I think this is the final film that's being released with him in it.
is it?
Quite a bit in the can when he passed away. Every time I've seen him in one of these movies that have come out after his death, it's like, man, what a tragedy.
I
Uh,
know.
and miss him. I mean, he one of those guys that just makes everything better, made everything better whenever he was in it. So it was great to see him again. And Tyrese Gibson, I've always liked him. I don't know why. I know he's in these Fast and the Furious movies, which suck, and there's nothing there. He made a movie a long time ago with Snoop Dogg called Baby Boy.
Oh, I don't know
Uh,
that.
he's a teen father.
Okay.
He's struggling, and it takes place. It's almost as if those two characters in that movie grew up to be these characters in this movie.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting dichotomy that's going on there. And I always loved him in that movie. John Singleton directed that.
Okay.
Uh, and he, when he gets the right role, he's really effective too. So, Labor Day weekend, the studios really don't have much left. They throw out these smaller movies. You never know what you're going to get. And Slingshot and 1992 were both pleasant surprises this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you said about all the different characters. And Scott Eastwood didn't have a whole lot of screen time, but when he was on, and you got to know what he was thinking. I thought his performance was wonderful, and I love Tyrese Gibson. He's, to me, very charismatic, and he also fills every inch of that screen.
Right. And I also want to mention Christopher Emmanuel, who plays the son. He's really
Okay.
good.
Yep, he
He's
is.
really good.
He is, especially that final scene. Oh,
Mhm.
uh, so check it out in theaters. I don't think you will be disappointed in either movie. And I'm going to be checking out Slingshot. We've got another movie,
Yeah. Oh
and
God.
Chuck, because you are the baseball guru,
Oh, Jesus
I'm
God.
going to let you take this one. Isn't
You
it
know what?
kind of me?
It has been a year of baseball suffering for me. As a White Sox fan, Jesus Christ. Uh, I told a friend the other day that it's just not summer when you don't have baseball. And I feel as though I have not had baseball this year. They've
Aw.
been so goddamn bad. And now I get a bad baseball movie. I mean, I didn't think you could make a boring baseball movie. I was wrong. Oh my God. There's a movie out this week called You Gotta Believe.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta believe me, this movie sucks. Okay. It has Luke Wilson and Greg Kinnear, and it's based on a true story that took place in 2002. Apparently, there was this Little League baseball team who was, and can you explain this to me?
I don't know.
Okay, we see this team at the beginning of the movie. They are like the Bad News Bears personified.
Right.
They can't do anything right.
Right.
And then inexplicably, the guy who runs this league asks that team to represent them in the Little League World Series tournament.
I don't get it.
Thank you. Why
Yeah.
don't you go to the Mets team and ask them?
You would think so. That part
I
didn't.
don't know. This is one of the many wrong things with this film. The two coaches, played by Greg Kinnear and Luke Wilson. Well, Luke Wilson's character, Bobby, he really cares about the team. Kinnear's character, John, he could really care less. He's doing paperwork at the end of the dugout. He's a lawyer. He could
It was
care less,
funny.
which was kind of funny. Yeah, yeah. So he doesn't care about this. Well, Bobby is diagnosed with cancer. And the one thing that makes him happy is seeing his boys play ball. So John says, well, I guess we'll do this. So I'm going to shepherd this team. I'm going to turn them around and we're going to make a run. And miraculously, he does transform these losers into an all-star team. And wouldn't you know it, they get pretty deep into the tournament. Every play they make, we cut to Bobby looking just so satisfied and thankful that he's around to see his boys play. And I know I sound incredibly cruel describing this movie in this tone because it was based on a tragic thing. This
I
guy
know.
does die. I
I know.
mean, we see the real footage at the end of him and the kids. He ends up dying in his 40s, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's just, the film is so trite. It lays on the sentiment with a trowel. It's like, we're going to make you cry. We're going to do everything we can to make you cry. Oh, and here's some sappy music that's going to help make you. That's not how you do this.
Right.
You want to move me? Be genuine.
Right.
You want to move me? Be sincere. Don't go over the top and hit me over the head with it. And that's what this movie does. I
There was
hate.
there was no real emotion in this. This was so superficial,
Yeah,
so
thank you. That's the word. That's the word,
And
superficial.
and it was the dialogue was so contrived. It's like
Huh.
these conversations never took place in this manner. And are we just reading it for the first time off of cue cards, you know? Oh, it looks like I'm going to die. Oh, that's really sad. We'll miss you, you know?
Well, and then the kids, when the kids talk, this is not the way kids talk.
No,
I mean, this is not the language kids use.
no,
I
no.
don't care what kind of home you come from. Your language is a little bit more dicey than what they're using
Right,
throughout. So,
right.
this is a faith-based film. So, you want to make it family friendly. You don't want to be offensive in any way, shape, or possible. And as a result, it suffers.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you can do that. I think we've seen a couple over the last years that, I
A
mean, you
couple.
got into the faith-based movies, but sometimes they can surprise you and be heartwarming and inspiring. But this one just makes everything so safe and so clean. It's just not real. And man, when the kids were crying at the, you've already given away the spoiler, he dies in the end.
In
Um,
the end,
the, the kids are crying. It's like, oh my God. I think my 2-year-old old grandson could probably cry more fake tears than that, you know?
yeah,
It
yeah.
was it was pathetic, really. I was sobbing at the end because I wasted my time.
Yes, very good. Very good. So skip this one. Believe me, skip. You gotta believe.
You gotta believe Chuck on this
Yes.
one.
Oh, God.
Let's see. I'm going to go to your list that I do go to on an almost
Are
daily
you sure? Are
basis.
you sure, Miss Alzheimer's? Are you sure? Okay.
No, I don't remember them. That's why I have to go
Yeah,
to
oh,
it.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I provide Pam a list that goes maybe 6 to 8 weeks out of all the movies that are coming out. And it's not because she has a bad memory, really. It's because that list changes.
Yes.
There are a lot of additions, late minute additions. Sometimes things are shifted. So what do you see on that list that we could also talk about if there's anything else?
You did not see Afraid, is that right?
It was not screened for critics, so I did not see Afraid, which has Zach Penn in it, I believe. And Afraid is spelled A-F-R, capital I, capital A, capital I-D. It's about an AI device that ends up terrorizing a family.
Right. And they didn't screen that one. They also did not screen Reagan, which stars Dennis Quaid as Ronald Reagan. I have zero interest in seeing that. And I have read some reviews that say this is the worst movie ever made.
It can't be that bad, but it doesn't look great. I find it interesting that they're releasing it now. I mean,
Yeah.
that there's a certain segment of the population that's going to flock to the film,
Right. Right.
and that's fine. I mean, and I think I've seen all I need to see of Dennis Quaid as Reagan in the trailer.
Exactly. Exactly. And then we've also got, I started watching The Wasp. I haven't finished it yet. My own issues with that. I really, really liked what I saw. It was a psychological thriller so far, and I really liked what I saw.
Isn't
Um,
it about a woman who wants to get rid of her abusive husband
yes.
and enlists an old friend who she knows might just be a sociopath?
Right, but the reason why she thinks that is pretty sick and twisted, and then you really try to think who's the sociopath here.
Aha, good. Okay, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna check this one out. Yeah.
And then
Naomi, what's her name? Naomi Harris. She's from the James Bond films.
oh,
And
okay,
then Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones.
okay, very good. And then that's pretty much it for this week. I did attempt to watch Over the River and Through the Woods, now Across the River,
Your grandma?
and Into the Woods with Liv Schreiber. And I just it takes place back in World War II, Italian Venice, and
Well, doesn't Schreiber play Hemingway?
he does, and I bet it's no, he does not play Hemingway. He plays it's based on a Hemingway novel.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, and I can imagine the novel is a little bit more rich, a little bit more complex. This got nowhere really, really fast, and I gave up on it.
Well, I will disagree with anything Hemingway having written being complex, but we'll go from there.
Oh, really?
I
Okay.
think he's massively overrated.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, then maybe this fits right in then. You'll have to watch
Yes,
it
I
and
mean,
let me know.
give me F. Scott Fitzgerald anytime.
All right. All right. And that's pretty much it for this week. Next week, we've got a big ticket item coming out, and that is Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. I am afraid to go see this because I loved the first one, and I don't want to dislike the second one.
You know, I had never seen the first one
What?
until 2 weeks ago.
No way.
Way, way.
How did you get away with that?
I don't know. I just, it's when I was younger, I was kind of snooty about certain things. And I was like, oh, that looks stupid. I'm not gonna go see that. That's
Oh, I'm too
dumb.
highbrow for that, huh?
Yeah, I was a serious film student, I
Okay.
didn't want to see that shit. But I watched it. I watched it a couple weeks ago, to prepare for this.
Hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised. And
Good.
I was surprised how little he's in the movie. I
Okay.
mean, really, he doesn't, I mean, he pops up here and there, but he's not really there full time until the third act, which I think was very smart.
Right.
Uh,
And
because
he
I
comes
think
to life.
like Deadpool, this character a little could go a long way.
Okay.
And you don't want to overstay his welcome. And I read some things about this new one. Apparently, everyone says it's great. It was at the Venice Film Festival the other day. It got a great reception, but apparently the structure is about the same. He's in there sparsely until the end, which I think is a good move.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope you're right. You and I will see that and report back to everybody next week as to how it is. This will probably be my major review for the week next week.
Me too, because I don't think I think there's a Western coming out next week called The Thicket
Okay.
with Peter Dinklage.
Okay.
And then there's a drama with Edie Falco
Yes.
named I'll Be Right There. And there's a horror film or a thriller coming out, The Front Room, next week that I'm very curious about.
What is that one about?
It is about, now there was that actress who was, when we went and saw Macbeth,
Mm-hmm.
Washington, there was that actress who played all three of the witches.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
She also popped up in Poor Things as the madam of the horror house where she goes.
Okay.
Apparently, she stars as a relative who moves into this young couple's front room. She is the husband's grandmother.
Okay.
The wife, played by Brandy, is pregnant,
Okay.
and they do not get along. And she seems to think that she's up to something much more than she appears to be. So seems like an interesting, the premise seems interesting. We'll see if they can pull it off. But yes, obviously Beetlejuice Squared will be the big one next week.
And is the old woman, is that Mary Catherine Wright who plays that character?
I don't know. That name doesn't sound correct. I could be wrong.
I loved that character in Macbeth. Maybe Catherine Hunter.
Catherine Hunter, that's her.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tragedy of Macbeth. Yep, that is her.
Yeah, yeah. When we're done here, watch the trailer. It looks
All right.
really interesting.
Okay, cool, cool.
And it's only 94 minutes, so I'm there right there. There, you get an automatic 2 stars for me if you're 90 minutes or less than 100 minutes.
I think that's probably should be our rule from now on.
There you go.
Automatic 2 stars if you're under 100.
Yep, we're going to build from there.
All right, that does it for another episode of Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. Make sure you check us out. We are on CBS 58 on every other Thursday morning, and you get a full dose of Pam Powell on Racine and Me every other Sunday, and that's both this week. Check our reviews on realtalkwithchuckandpam.com because we try and see as much as we can so you can save yourself.
Have a good one.